I would now like to give the floor back to John Reeve to share some closing remarks, and he will also give the floor to Professor Battaglino to close the meeting formally. And from my side as moderator, warmest thanks to all of you, speakers, panelists and participants during the entire afternoon. It's been a pleasure to moderate this really very powerful session. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Nicola, and thank you so much for your excellent moderation of the session today. We began the session with patients, with the moving stories of two patients suffering with FH, and I feel very privileged to close it as a representative of our European network of patient organisations. It's been a very powerful meeting. We've seen strong consensus and commitment from all parties on the next steps for FH paediatric screening in Europe. Our journey this afternoon started with the stark reality of patients who live with this most common undiagnosed condition and the tragedies that could have been avoided. We heard about the unmet needs of millions of patients and citizens in the greater Europe with FH, and therefore at risk from premature heart attack and stroke. Then we looked at how the wider cardiovascular disease community is uniting to drive this long-awaited change. We were given a global perspective and a reminder of how the global call for action has inspired our work. And we learned about the powerful evidence base for FH paediatric screening in the global registry. We honed in on good practice in several European countries, which can both serve as a model and inspire us moving forward by showing what's really possible and its demonstrated impact on people's lives. On the basis of this experience, a series of key recommendations has been developed, which maps out the way forward. In the session on consensus building, our close allies and fellow stakeholders discussed these and were unequivocal in their view that we can build on these achievements to date. We do not need to reinvent the wheel, but we do need to address fragmentation and piecemeal approaches. FH paediatric screening in the EU and the wider Europe is achievable with the right political will, smart investment, and genuine partnerships that include patients and citizens as equal players. This was reiterated in our final session of the day, in which we discussed with policymakers how to move forward, covering the role of national governments, the role of the European institutions, and the role of groups like FH Europe. Today, I believe we've agreed on a common vision and a common mission. As I said a few minutes ago, in 3 years' time, we can be well on the way to a systemic approach to FH paediatric screening in all European countries. We will shortly have a robust action plan, strengthened through your contributions, and we all have a distinct and a collective role to play in this. The time to act is now. As Professor Gidding said, we've been talking about it since the 1998 Geneva meeting with very uneven progress. We all agree today that now the time is right. We need to move to implementation and get the job done. We're delighted that the Slovenian EU Council presidency has championed this work to mobilize fellow member states, and we look to the upcoming French presidency to pick up the baton. The message from the Commission is loud and clear. There are opportunities through new funding programs to nurture and support EU cooperation on FH screening. It's also clear that we have the backing of the vibrant European Heart Group. As president of FH Europe, I commit my organisation to being a convener, an accelerator, and, if I might say, a benevolent watchdog to ensure that we deliver on our commitments today. I'd like to thank the speakers, the panelists, the organisers, and all those who worked very hard to ensure the success of this afternoon's meeting. We will circulate a summary report with the highlights and the action plan, and I look forward to our continued engagement with every one of you to make FH paediatric screening a reality in Europe.